Good day, everyone. We're here to report to you in our subject, School Legislation, under our Professor, Dr. Ricardo G. Hirado. I am Maricel M. Montajes, currently teaching at Tigmarabo Elementary School. Today, me and Ma'am Eileen E. Talaman will going to discuss to you our topic about Republic Act 386. Republic Act 386. An act to ordain and institute the Civil Code of the Philippines. It is the product of the codification of private law in the Philippines. When we say private law, it is more specific than public law. What are the differences between public law and private law? Public law deals with issues that affect the general public or state, the society as a whole, while private law affects the rights and obligations of individuals, families, businesses, and small groups and exists to assess citizens and disputes that involve private matter. Its scope is more specific than public law. Civil Code of the Philippines is the basic law governing persons and family relations, property and property rights, ownership of modifications, and the modes of acquiring ownership into obligations and contracts. It was enacted and signed in June 18, 1949 and took effect in 1950. Features. Preliminary title from Articles 1 to 36. It states the title itself, effects and application of laws. Under this is the human relations. Any public officer or employee or any private individual who directly or indirectly obstructs, defeats, violates, or in any manner impedes or impairs any of the following rights and liberties of another person shall be liable to the latter for damages. There are 19 rights in human relations. Number 1, freedom of religion. 2, freedom of speech. 3, freedom to write for the press or to maintain a periodical publication. 4, freedom from arbitrary or illegal detention. 5, freedom of suffrage. 6, the right against deprivation of property without due process of law. 7, the right to a just compensation when private property is taken for public use. 8, the right to the equal protection of laws. 9, the right to be secure in one's person, house, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures. 10, the liberty to abode and of changing the same. 11, the privacy of communication and correspondence. 12, the right to become a member of associations or societies for purposes not contrary to law. 13, the right to take part in a peaceable assembly to petition the government for redress of grievances. 14, the right to be free from involuntary servitude in any form. 15, the right of the accused against excessive bail. 16, the right of the accused to be heard by himself and counsel. 17, freedom from being compelled to be a witness against oneself. 18, freedom from excessive fines or cruel and unusual punishment unless the same is imposed or inflicted in accordance with the statute which has not been judicially declared unconstitutional. And 19, freedom of access to the courts. In any of the cases referred to in this article, whether or not the defendant's act or omission constitutes a criminal offense, the aggrieved party has a right to commence an entirely separate and distinct civil action for damages and for other relief. Let's go to Book 1. Under this are persons and family relations, from Articles 37 to 413. It focuses the persons, marriage, and legal separations and family relations. The natural persons. Civil personality is distinguished by death. Juridical persons. The following are juridical persons. Number 1, the state in its political subdivisions. Number 2, other corporations, institutions, and entities for public interest or purpose created by law. Their personality begins as soon as they have been constituted according to law. And number 3, corporations, partnerships, and associations for private interest or purpose to which the law grants a juridical personality separate and distinct from that of its shareholder, partner, or member. Marriage. Marriage is a union between two individuals that unites their lives legally, economically, and emotionally. Marriage is not a mere contract but an invaluable social institution. Its nature, consequences, and incidents are governed by law and not subject to stipulation, except that marriage settlements may to a certain extent fix the property relations during the marriage. No marriage shall be solemnized unless all these requisites are complied with. Number 1, legal capacity of the contracting parties. Number 2, their consent freely given. Number 3, authority of the person performing the marriage. And number 4, a marriage license except in a marriage of exceptional character. Now let's go to legal separation. A petition for legal separation may be filed. Number 1, for adultery on the part of the wife and for concubinage on the part of the husband, as defined in the Penal Code. Number 2, an attempt by one spouse against the life of the other. The rights and obligations between husband and wife. The husband and wife are obliged to live together, observe mutual respect and fidelity, and render mutual help and support. The husband is responsible for the support of the wife and the rest of the family. These expenses shall be met first from the conjugal property, then from the husband's capital, and lastly from the wife's parental property. Property relations between husband and wife. The property relations between husband and wife shall be governed in the following order. First, by contract executed before the marriage. Second, by the provision of this code. And third, by custom. Conjugal partnership of gains. All property of conjugal partnership of gains is owned in common by the husband and wife. The family as an institution. The family is the basic social institution which public policy cherishes and protects. Family relations shall include those: number 1, between husband and wife. Number 2, between parent and child. Number 3, among other ascendants and their descendants. And number 4, among brothers and sisters. The family home. The family home is the dwelling house where a person and his family reside, and the land on which it is situated. We have the support. Support is everything that is indispensable for sustenance, dwelling, clothing, and medical attendance, according to the social position of the family. Then, parental authority. The father and mother jointly exercise parental authority over their legitimate children who are not emancipated. In case of disagreement, the father's decision shall prevail, unless there is a judicial order to the contrary. Adoption. The husband and wife may jointly adopt. Parental authority shall in such case be exercised as if the child were their own by nature. Any person, even if of age, may be adopted, provided the adopter is 16 years older. The following may be adopted. Number 1, the natural child by the natural father or mother. Number 2, other illegitimate children by the father or mother. And number 3, a stepchild by the stepfather or stepmother. The following cannot be adopted. Number 1, a married person without the written consent of the other spouse. Number 2, an alien with whose government the Republic of the Philippines has broken diplomatic. And number 3, a person who has already been adopted. And lastly, care and education of children. Every child is entitled to parental care, shall receive at least elementary education, shall be given moral and civic training by the parents or guardian, and has a right to live in an atmosphere conducive to his physical, moral, and intellectual development. Every parent and every person holding substitute parental authority shall see to it that the rights of the child are respected and his duties complied with, and shall particularly imbue the child with high-mindedness, love of country, fidelity to democracy as a way of life, and attachment to the ideal of permanent world peace. That's end my report. Ma'am Eileen Talaman will continue the discussion about property and property rights, ownership and obligations and contrast. Thank you, stay safe, and God bless.